Alright guys, we're going to do a lab on mass calculations, and we're going to do that using S'more Stoichiometry. If you get the term s'more, yes, we're going to have s'mores. So you have an equation here at the very beginning. You'll have to balance that equation before you can do the lab. Okay? Now in the first part it says measure the mass of one marshmallow. So here is one marshmallow. I'm going to stick it on the balance, and I get a mass of 6.38. So you want to write that down on your data table, 6.38. Okay? And then in a bag of marshmallows, there's 238 grams. So the next thing says the mass of the whole bag of marshmallows is 238 grams. Okay? So then I'm going to go to this next page. You'll have to do some calculations on this in a minute. Then I'm going to go to the next page, and it says measure the mass of 1 graham cracker. Okay, so 1 graham cracker, I'm going to measure the mass, and I get 15.63 for the mass of 1 graham cracker. Okay? Then it says the mass of a whole box of graham crackers. That's going to be 408 grams. So if you had a whole box of graham crackers, the total mass is going to be 408 grams. Okay? And then last it says measure the mass of 3 segments. So that's 3 chocolate segments. Okay? And you'll measure the mass, and it's going to be 10.99 is the mass of 3 segments. Okay? 10.99. Now, the mass of 1 bar of chocolate, which would be just 1 regular Hershey's chocolate bar, would be 43 grams. Okay, so the total mass of the chocolate bar would be 43 grams. Okay, when you get down to the part where how many people are in this class, we have 48 people in our digital class. So if all of our digital students were doing this lab, you would have a total of 48 people. Okay, now when you get to the part on the back page where it's asking you to solve parts of the lab, it says what reactants, if any, were in excess. So based on your grams and how many s'mores that you could make, one of those items is going to limit how many s'mores you could make. It's either going to be the chocolate bar, the 3 segments of chocolate, the 1 marshmallow, or the 1 graham cracker. Once you do your math, okay, that will tell you how many or which item is your limiting reactant. The other 2 are going to be in excess. And then they want to know mass and record the total of each excess reactant. So what you would do is, say for existence, one of them gave you 10, you could only make 10 s'mores. And the other one said you could make 20, and the other one said you could make 15. Okay? So the 10 would be your limiting. Okay? And then the other would be, okay, I got 5 in excess, and then I've got 10 in excess. You subtract off how many s'mores you can make and figure out what item is in excess. Okay? Then part B is where you're going to do the mass calculations. Now, I have them on the board, so I'm going to come over here, and I am going to bring you over to the board to kind of show you how you would do this. Okay? So the very first top reaction, what they're saying in part B is, what if I had 100 grams of each of the 3 reactants, meaning 100 grams of the marshmallow, 100 grams of the graham cracker, and 100 grams of the chocolate segment? How would I find out how many grams of s'mores I would have? Okay, so you're going to do a mass calculations. In the first one, if you notice, you have 1 mole over grams of S. Okay, that's going to be how much 1 marshmallow weighs. In the second equation, it's going to be how many grams for 1 graham cracker. And then for the third equation, it's going to be how many grams of RE, which is the 3 segments. Now you'll have to divide that by 3 because they want the grams of 1 segment. Then the third block is the mole ratio. What I don't know over what I do know. So that's where you're going to need the balanced equation. And if you notice, the first 2, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. But then when you get down to the third equation, it's a 1-to-3 ratio. And then the very last one is grams of s'mores. So you're going to add up how many grams you had of 1 marshmallow plus 1 graham cracker plus the 3 segments. And that's the molar mass of your s'mores. So that number is going to be the same for all 3 reactions. Okay? Now, once you're finished with that, okay, you are going to Find out how many grams you produced of each one, and then you are going to calculate the limiting reactant. So basically, after you get done part B, you're going to make so many grams of s'mores for each one. Whichever one is the smallest, that's your limiting reactant. The other two are going to be in excess. So in part C, you would write down which one is the limiting. And then when you get to part D, you're going to subtract off the number of grams of the limiting reactant to figure out how many grams of excess you have. Okay? If you have any trouble, please email us. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to help you. Okay? Now, the only last thing I'm going to say is when you're doing the part where you're trying to find out how many marshmallows are in a bag, you're going to divide the mass of what's in the bag or the box, the bigger one, divided by one of them. Okay? So that's how you tell how many marshmallows or graham crackers or segments are in each of the 3 items. Okay? So I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you soon.